you're head of product development at Videology. Tell me about the next 12 months and the product roadmap. What's your focus based on, because I think that's a pretty good reflection of where the mind share is in the buying marketplace and dollars are going to move. So what are you focused on?
Yeah, so I think there's sort of two big areas, one of which we've heard a lot about in previous panels, but so the first being kind of programmatic, and that's really about automation. So it's building tools to provide companies like Xaxis to be able to service audience buying needs. So that's in a self-service fashion as wherever possible. So it's whether that's setting up a placement for a new publisher, whether that's optimizing campaigns, running the analytics for those campaigns. It's essentially providing the end-to-end automation of video buying. So a lot of work that's going on kind of around the world there in terms of automation. The second area is around kind of cross-screen and increasingly sort of addressable TV. So we're seeing now a lot of the same data sets that we're talking about in digital being applied to the world of TV, and that's in kind of a few different areas. First of all, what's commonly known as sort of catch-up TV or video on demand, which is delivered via a set-top box, but is essentially IP delivered, so it has a natural layer of addressability to it. Secondly, would be kind of zone-based targeting, so essentially looking at geographical areas and affinities of data sets with those geographical areas and looking at dynamic insertion at the zone level. And then thirdly would be true kind of household addressability. There's a lot that needs to shift in the industry more generally to make that truly possible, but we're building a lot of the infrastructure to enable that over the next year or so.
When we sort of talk about automation specifically, I mean, how much of platform right now, how much sort of your buys, if you look at it just as a percentage of users, is self-service versus not?
I would say, it's probably about 50-50 right now in terms of...
Where would you like that to be in 12 months?
We would love it to be 100%. I mean, for us, obviously, the economics of being a technology company, it makes sense for us we want our partners to be self-service. And there's really two parts to that, though. There's one is being ahead of the needs from a product standpoint of what people need to be doing now and then in 6 months' time and anticipating those needs. The second part is sort of resourcing and training. So, especially in video, it's not easy being fully automated and having the skill set and the knowledge in how to set up and run a video campaign start to finish. So, just one example would be transcoding a video unit, for example. Not many people would realize that you have to be able to transcode into at least 4 or 5 different formats, which means that trafficking a video campaign is significantly more complex than it would be for a display campaign. So you're looking at kind of many different variations of sort of complexities to be able to deal with different format types, different integration types, different inventory types all around the world. So it takes time and it takes partnership to deliver on that.
Where does, from a feature sort of and functionality perspective, where does creative fit into that for you guys? I mean, I know you're just about sort of the buy and the transaction, right? But obviously, the toolkit around the ability to fulfill on a self-service basis, when you start talking about creative optimization, gets much more complex, right? So tell me about, because that's got to be something that you think a lot about and where you guys are in addressing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we sort of think about, the core of what our platform delivers is your 15 or 30-second ad unit, which we think of kind of like this is your blank canvas, right? So you can, you're applying audience data to that creative unit, but there's a second kind of layer of optimization that then goes in around the interaction with the audience. And so with that kind of blank canvas, first of all, we provide, at least a number of sort of in-house solutions where you can actually provide a basic level of interactivity. So for example, be able to overlay different offers on a video unit. But then we also have a number of integrations with companies in the ecosystem that are specialist, creative interaction vendors. So, companies like Innovid or iView, who might do things like, dynamic end frame delivery and that kind of thing. So, we like to be as open as possible to those different kind of creative integrations in the ecosystem because we know that brands will often have a very sort of unique preference about how they like to work with creative.
I mean, this whole sort of cross-platform conversation, right? I mean, your strategic partners, we talk about your sort of partnership with Xaxis. I mean, this is obviously something that is critical in their agenda, I'm sure, because they're driving an innovation agenda as well as their clients are asking for it, right? But how does that flow downstream in the value chain as a technology provider, if you guys sort of as an independent in the ecosystem working with many parties, like how much of this cross-platform challenge is yours to bear, or are you just simply following the data? Like where is that from a development perspective?
I think it's kind of very much ours to bear in the sense that if we don't empower it and we're not part of the shift, we'll be caught behind. So we definitely feel like we want to be at the sort of cutting edge of bringing cross-screen addressability. And of course, our partners are absolutely critical in that process and are a huge input of both kind of product development feedback, as well as where marketers and advertisers are sort of thinking about over the sort of next few years. But we absolutely think that there's a sort of definitely a technology race on at the moment to be able to kind of win in this area of cross-screen addressability, and everyone's working extremely hard, and we know that there's only going to be a few winners in this.